I had to do some maintenance on the train room. This bottom trim board here, all the way around, had to be replaced. Moisture in the Arizona sun had torn that up, and I had pine down there before, and this is PVC, so it should be waterproof, and hopefully it handles the sun pretty well once I get paint on it. I have the maintenance finished on the outside of the train room. I used corner brackets and tie plates, try to keep the PVC board from separating. Now the joints have been glued, but the summer heat here is pretty brutal and the sun gets intense. And if there's a lot of expansion, I'm going to try to keep those things from separating. I think it turned out pretty good. Say I replaced a 3-inch board here with a 6-inch board. I had to cut the batten strips up a couple inches to fit the new PVC board. I glued everything in with some really aggressive adhesive, and I recaulked everything, and I gave it 5 coats of paint. So hopefully I'm good for another 10 years. That's the entrance to the train room from the patio, and it's also the exit from the house out to the patio. It has to go through the train room. That's my heater and air conditioner. The windows in the train room are filled with 4 inches of foam insulation. Now I don't have a sunscreen on this window, so what I did is I put a Southern Pacific poster in the window. And it's a bit sun faded. It's been out here for a few years. Still doing tiles, so I got tile scraps on that table there. Got my trees trimmed. Trying to use this last month or so of good weather to get some outside work done before the Arizona summer heat lays in. I got my tile saw out. Still working on tile inside the house. So I'm finally going to put some permanent shelving in down here. I was out looking in my garage cabinets. I figured, well, I surely have some white paint. And I have some white paint, but this is it. And shockingly, this paint is 15 years old. When I first bought my house, I was doing my first remodel. This is my ceiling paint. Now, surprisingly, it's still good. All right, I got these pieces painted. I have the 3 plywood shelves, and I have these 3 trim pieces. So I'm going to let this sit out in the sun for a few hours before I take it back inside the train room. I have the shelving and the trim in, and it's not furniture, it's a shelf. Time to start painting in the train room. Now, on the outside of the train room, I did some repairs. I put 5 coats of paint on the outside of the train room, and now I need to paint some of this bare wood here. And I have to say, I do not enjoy painting, but it's something, I gotta want to have it to do it because it's just not something I enjoy. But I want to have this stuff painted, and so I'll do it. The hardest part is just getting started. Well, I've got started. That's usually the hardest part. And now that I've started, I'm generally inclined to finish. So I've made it to here. And I still have all that to do. I believe I've finished up the painting. I need to pull the masking up off the floor. Got quite a mess here. I think the next thing, we'll just do a thorough cleaning of the room, and then I can start putting everything back together. But I got a mess. I have the painting finished, starting to put things back together. Everything's all nice and tidy. Now this time of year the evenings are pretty mild. Have the door open, just the screen door. It's pretty comfortable inside the train room. I have my train room maintenance finished. I did some repair, recaulk, repaint on the outside. On the inside, I did some painting, constructed some shelving, did a lot of cleaning and some reorganizing. Currently, I have everything in plastic storage containers. On the right side, I have all my rolling stock and my locomotive boxes. On the left side, on the floor, underneath the shelving, I have 4 containers of Walther's structure kits. And above that, modeling materials, paint, whatever it might be. In the back, I have some ground cover materials, dirt, pebbles, some ground foam, static grass. I have some rock castings. I have all my molds in a plastic container now. Right now, I am pretty organized. I've been building structures for the stone wall section, which is this section from here all the way down to the bridge. I probably still have a couple yet to do. I'm working on one right now, and I may have to build another. But I'm hoping to have all of the structures for that section finished by the end of the summer. I need to start building trees. I'm going to need a couple hundred trees for the layout, and I can't put any of the structures in place until I get the trees in place all along here. I don't want to be leaning over the top of the structures to install trees, so I want to put the trees in first and do all the groundwork around the trees. Once all that's done, and then I can install the structures, put in the road work, all that. So there's still a lot of work to do before I install the structures in the stone wall section. The next thing for the physical layout itself will be to work on this section of the layout. Now, I'm not real happy with what I have here. I need to have the track in a similar configuration so I can continuously run my trains. And there needs to be a way to drop 6.5 inches of elevation from this point here down to here. Currently, what I have is a 2% grade that runs around declining or inclining, depending on which direction the train's going. But I might want to do something different. Now, regardless of what I decide to do with the rest of the track in this section, all of this track is coming out. Originally, I was thinking I would attach a removable section here that would allow me to run trains on and off the layout. But I just don't see that happening. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of all of this. Another thing I want to do is right here, this curve is a 23-inch radius. And what I would like to do is broaden this curve a bit. And so I'm going to take and I'm going to cut a bunch of this terrain out so I can have this curve with a little broader sweep. So all of this is coming out. I may retain this, but this is all coming out up to the portal. I may retain this bridge, but all of this is coming out. All of this is coming out. And so I'll have to build some new bridge supports. This track is probably coming out, although I like the idea of having an abandoned track running off into the distance, but it just depends on how this track lays after I redo the curve. I'm going to retain all this rock work up here, but all of this is coming out. This is all coming out down to the bench top. This bridge will be coming out, and I'm going to continue the rock work from here and tie it into the rock work over there. But all of this is coming out. All of this is coming out. Of course, I'll leave enough room here for the track, and then I'll just take a vertical cut and remove all of this. All of this is coming out. Now I'll leave enough room for the track and then just do a vertical cut and then take all of this out. Now I don't know about the terrain shape here, the terrain form back into the corner and around the curve. It depends on what I do with this section. What I'm leaning towards is putting a two-turn helix in this area. And if I decide to do that, everything in this area will be taken down to the benchwork height. So this will all be taken out. So right now, my train room is all nice and tidy. Been pretty thoroughly cleaned. Put in some new shelving. Did a bunch of painting. Did some organizing. And in a few weeks, I'm going to trash the room again when I start working on this section of the layout and cutting a bunch of this out and redoing it. My thinking is, I don't really like this, and I don't want to get into a bunch of work where I have all my rock castings painted and I have backdrops in place, and then decide I hate it so much it's going to come out after doing all that work. So I'm going to do the work now, change this up a little bit so I like it better, and then move on from there. So I'll take a step back, hopefully take a few steps forward. So the train room needed a bit of work on the exterior. I got all that done. I've been wanting to put shelving in since I built the benchwork. I finally got that done. I got all the benchwork painted. I'm organized. So I think that was a few weeks well spent. I'm pretty happy with the condition of the train room now. I'm continuing building structures for the stone wall section. And in a few weeks, Probably going to dig into the other half of the layout and make some changes. So I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you come back and join me again.